I think my mother decided that she didn't want to go on living in Portsmouth. Came up to London to see a friend, saw this old sailing barge, was for sale, it was £600, and just decided to buy it there and then without talking to my father. Opened a little padlock, we went over a really wobbly gangplank, went through a garden, and we rented the mooring in the garden, relatively cheaply at first.
Yeah. And
it's a beautiful road where there are houses, then gardens, then the road, then more gardens, then the river. And on the river are a few, maybe there were 5, 6 barges. So it was quite sort of independent next to an island in London.
Mm.
It was an amazing. When we first lived there, we had some photos. We didn't even have rooms. Down the hatch there are photos of just books all over the floor and sawdust. And we had these guys called Tony and Pat who lived with us across a couple of years and sort of helped do it up, saw and do it up while we lived there. Through a hatch my mother lowered a grand piano. So we had a grand piano. We had Tony and Pat occasionally sawing and trying to make partitions. We didn't really have rooms.
How old were you then? That kind
3, when I was about 3.
Oh, right, yeah.
We had a giant poodle and a small Tibetan spaniel. We initially lived not even like camping, we lived in this, all our things just shoved there, a dustbin in a park, with a black plastic bag and then we just chucked over the side. We had very limited water, I don't even think we had hot water. But my father was away a lot on the Art Royals, I don't remember him being there. We didn't have a loo, we ended up with sort of bookshelves at the prow and stuff, but very primitive.
Mm.
But this is the 60s, I can remember every bit of furniture because it was so limited. We weren't a trendy family, but I suppose that we may be, when you're young you don't think like that, but we had a rocking horse, a very odd coloured carpet, this grand piano, gramophone, we had a pither stove, that was our only heating. We had a polar bear rug with this crazy polar bear head.
I left Kent and the swell behind me and crossed the Thames estuary, leaving my passport at home. I wanted to catch up with intrepid sailor and renowned author Nick Ardley. He can often be seen sailing on board Wimbrel with his first mate, his wife Christabel. Nick knows these waters well and has written some accomplished novels on the subject. He was brought up in the 50s and 60s on board the sailing barge Mayflower.
When you had time to go to school as well?
We had to go to school as well, yes. This was our evening task.
So you all kept very busy then?
And then at the weekend, when Father was home, on a Saturday morning, we'd go out on deck and we'd varnish the spars. Sand the spars. And then Mother would call out breakfast. Usually my father would call out, "Is it ready yet?" And chuckle at us boys. And then after breakfast, we'd slap the varnish on or lay it on properly or whatever. And there was tanning, looking after the ropes. Sometimes there was new ropes to reeve, but not always. And then once the gear was raised, there was all the painting and tarring to do. It just went on.
And this was every year?
Every year.
Every year after the winter?
We didn't tan the sails every year. It was usually about every 3 to 4 years. It's when it started getting a bit powdery and dry, then it was time to give it a fresh coat. But they had to be carried ashore. We'd have to rustle up a team of worthies to help us do that. And then as we got older, a lot of the repair woodwork fell to myself and my older brothers when he was home from sea. Because we both trained to go to sea. Me as an engineer, and he was an AB with a company at the time. And when I used to come home on leave, I'd end up doing quite large jobs.
You did the mast, you did once.
My father renewed the mainmast on the barge, the barge called the Redoubtable, and the sprit, we're not sure what barge it came off, but it's possible that it came off the port light, or possibly the Reminder.
And she was shouting at me, "Don't shout her, you make her panic." And he was just standing right behind me. And it's so high. It's, oh my God.
No, I don't remember. I can remember seeing when you was up there repairing them, you sat on this little wooden swing, just hanging. She found me on Facebook, and one of the first things she said was, I had to find you because I was telling my partner about all the fun that we used to have on your boat.
So you should be saying this to the camera.
Yeah,
Dad.
that's what we're saying in a minute. Yeah.
So
I
you say,
thought we was.
hold that thought, Lucy. That's exactly what it's all about.
In April 2015, I managed to find the Montreal still hanging on to life, roped to a jetty in Erith, Kent. Many people believing she had already been broken up long ago, but there she was, still awaiting her final embarkation.
I was still, like my father had been, a little apprehensive about sailing such a large vessel. But we had the last sail to Solent, where we scattered my father's ashes and then took her to Southampton, where I eventually found a buyer for her.
The Five Sisters was approaching her last adventure, perhaps not as exciting as the trips to Holland and France with the Larkin family, but she was about to become a new home on the River Hamble for another family with 2 young children. She was bought by the Miles family, who were looking for a home that would not be as expensive as a house. They took the Five Sisters up the Hamble and found a lovely mooring for her. The Miles family and 5 sisters were featured in this short Pathé news film, which took a rather cynical view of living on houseboats, the residents being known as water gypsies at that time. The 5 sisters never sailed again.